Now we've talked about these objects and methods and properties, and we've talked about firing off something to call a method and make a change to a property of sorts. So, it might, going back to our car example, it might be, hitting the brakes is the event that happened, right? Unlocking a car door or something happened. And on our web pages, that might be something as simple as loading a page or closing a page or scrolling or clicking on an item or hovering over top of an item or hovering off an item. All kinds of different things here. And you can see I've got a list of different events, standard events here and non-standard events that exist out there. And there's a lot. It might be, some audio's playing. It might be, some kind of click on a mouse, or you copy and paste something or double click on something. And I'm sure you can start seeing where this is much more powerful than we ever had with CSS. It might be dragging something or whatever, okay? Keyboard, is pressed down or pressed up or up and down, different things like that. Okay, so let's show you some examples of how we might do that. So first off, let's look over here in our HTML. And there's two things I want you to notice. I've got this button here, and I've got this little time paragraph that has nothing in it right there. Okay, and on this button, I have the text, the time is ? And then I have this button in here, and inside of here, I have this JavaScript attribute. Now, you can mix JavaScript directly into an attribute of your HTML. So on here, I have the event on click, and that means if you click on it, then run. And now going back to our document object model, I say go look on the document, go look for the ID by using getElementById, and that's a method called time. And so it's looking down here at this one right here, okay? And then it says dot change its inner HTML to the current date. All right, so let's look at that and refresh the page, and I'll click on what time it is, and you'll see that that date was now put in that little timestamp right here. The inner HTML of time was changed to equal the date. So this is what I want you to kind of understand of this on-click event that we just used right here. Now this is fine and all, but the problem with this is if we have a web page with thousands of different buttons and we want it to generate something, maybe change the color, I don't know what, we want to change something, that's going to be a lot of text you have to change, okay? So I've gone over here to our external CSS, and I've done what's called an event handler or event listener. And this one says go out, look on the document, look for the ID mouse, okay, and I have this button here I called mouse, and I have this little piece of text that says mouse over me, and it says make an event listener, just have something sit there and listen for a mouse over. Now we could do an on click, we could do all kinds of different events, but I chose the one called mouse over. So I just move my mouse over the top. It's going to run the function display date, okay? And I've made this function display date right underneath here, and we haven't covered functions yet, but in its simplistic form it says, a function is really just a whole bunch of different steps to follow in order, okay? And so when I hover over mouse over, run all of these little steps within, okay? So it's going to go out and look on our document, look for the time ID, change its inner HTML to the date, pretty much the exact same thing we just did over here, but it's all within a function now, okay? So this one, you can see now when I just take my mouse, let's refresh it so that time goes away, and I'm just going to mouse over top of it, you can see how it ran that function and displayed the date inside of time. Now this is a better way of doing things using these event listeners because you can set up an event listener to look at your entire website globally. You don't have to run, or put in these little snippets of JavaScript in every single HTML tag that you have. You can essentially accomplish the same thing but more globally. So that's the reason we do it that way, and it just makes it so much easier to deal with all this. So these are events. There's a lot of them, again, and you can just go look up JavaScript events, and you're going to find pages and pages and pages of these things that are out there that exist. And you can just use them and say, if this thing happens, then do this. And so it's as simple as that. Just got to get your syntax right.